Hi, welcome to the Ron and Son podcast. I'm Clinton.
And I'm Ron.
Hope you're all doing great. This is actually episode number 5.
5.
So last time we did a podcast, I watched it, and when I said episode 4, Dad's like,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yep. Just like that. This is 5.
So we finally started getting a little bit of feedback. I actually had some people hit me up with some different Sasquatch stories. I just wanted to bring that up really quick because I haven't even talked to Ron or Dad about these stories yet. One of them was off the Nishka Road in Aberdeen, Washington. So if you're going towards Westport, Washington, this individual was driving, and I think it was around 2 a.m, and they found a torso that had no legs. It had, I believe it was decapitated, and they still believe to this day that it could have been Bigfoot. And that was one of the stories our viewers hit me up with. So that was interesting. Again, if you ever have any kind of story or any kind of situation you've had, please hit us up. Let us know. We're interested, and we're going to be taking on guests here soon. So we're going to, I'm in the middle process of getting another microphone, and we're probably going to bring in some people. But I just wanted to bring that up, that people are sharing stuff with us, and that's really cool. That's one of the reasons we're doing this. I'm a huge Art Bell fan. I remember being a kid, and my dad and I would be on the road going to like Mount St. Helens to pump a septic, and I was just a little kid getting to hang out in the big septic truck, and Art Bell, that's what we listened to. And even when I'd go back to my mom's, my stepdad listened to Art Bell. So I just got an Art Bell upbringing, coast to coast. That is really where I think a lot of my interest in this kind of stuff has came. So did you hear any random stories?
Well, one thing when you started talking about Bigfoot and stuff, it was back in the early 70s. It was a Grays Harbor sheriff reported a Bigfoot on McKay Road. And that was here in Grays Harbor. So that's a long time ago. That's going out towards the beach.
On the way to Westport or on the way to
Ocean Shores?
Okay, I know that there at one point there was a Sasquatch sighting it was around the time I lived over, I think it's O'Leary Creek Road. So that's basically right past the prison. And I had also heard a little bit of a story of somebody dressing up in a costume, and they would actually run across the road. So I personally, on the story about in between the O'Leary Creek Road and the prison, I know that that's been debunked at one point. But the torso that was found out in Nishka, that I can't explain. Obviously, the sheriff calling something in, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was back when, back in the early 70s when that happened. And it was a sheriff. So I thought that was something that I would say would be credible in the area and stuff. So they're out there, and don't be scared to talk about it, because they've tried to make us feel like it's in our heads, but we know they're there once you see them. And once you're around them, we shouldn't be scared to be able to talk about it. And I think the more information we get out there, the better it'll be for everybody, getting the right information and moving forward and having them come back in to maybe be part of the family.
And I think I talked about this on a previous episode, but the Quinault tribe and other tribes as well think of Sasquatch as like a shapeshifter. For instance, I have a tattoo on my leg that it's a picture of Sasquatch, a tribal drawing, but it's all these different animals that make up the Sasquatch. So part of the Quinault's story is a salmon, a whale, an eagle, and all these animals come together to make this like transformer, which is a Sasquatch. And that's a pretty interesting theory behind it.
Right. I always thought it could have been a holding place for some kind of a species from outside our Earth that comes here and it's kind of trapped or is spending time, because we don't find burial sites and those kinds of things. So I think that there's a reason why they're here, but whether they're here for a long period of time, I don't know. I think they come and go, but there's more than one. There's hundreds or thousands of them that have been here through time.
That kind of goes back to the theory of them being a shapeshifter, actually. That's a theory that I've heard from Dr. J is what he goes by. And he does a lot of different Sasquatch stuff. I could actually get him in as a guest pretty easily. And that would be interesting. I personally, I have a hard time believing that aspect of it. And I feel like it's more of a spiritual thing myself. I feel like it's beyond human, beyond animal, and more of a spiritual, like a ghost per se. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think ghosts are people that just, most of the time about ghosts, they haven't moved on. There's a reason why they're still here, and they're kind of trapped. Where with a Sasquatch or a Yeti, I think it's a little bit different than something like that. I actually think that's more alien life form.
And that would go right with the shapeshifter. And that was like what I've heard too as well from Dr. J. He was talking about them being from a different planet, and in their planet, their planet's dying. So they made these portals out in the woods where they can come through these portals and they can get through into our woods and in our environment and survive where they can't survive back home on their planet. And he's a doctor, a PhD. He's also a psychologist, which I think is important to say, because a psychologist, this is my personal opinion, you got to be pretty crazy to be a psychologist.
Or you become crazy.
I'm not calling him crazy. I'm just saying there's some craziness going on there, but he actually, you're not crazy, Dr. Dre. I called him Dr. Dre. Dr. J. So he saw a pterodactyl go through the portal. So, and that's where the Sasquatches are going through. So in the sense of seeing a pterodactyl go through the portal, then it's almost time travel and not just going from a planet to here. So what if the Sasquatch were the beginning of some sort of man from the dinosaur times coming through here and like finding a way to get through? Because, like when I almost said all the Sasquatch, when all the dinosaurs died, maybe they figured it out. They're like, we need to get out of here before this asteroid hits or whatever happens so that we can make it and not die with these dinosaurs.
Wow. It's kind of like when you're driving and you see the ripple of the ocean in front of you and it's a mirage. And then when you're almost there, it's gone. But what if you could get there and then be able to travel when it leaves? I don't know, but we've all seen those. It's almost like saying you've been here before and you know what's going to happen right before it happens. It's happened to everybody.
Like deja vu.
Yeah, it's deja vu. But we see it in our cars all the time. But it's so simple, but it's so hard to grasp. So we're here to ask more questions than we are able to get answers.
So our question to you, the viewer, is, what have you experienced? Please share that in the comments, however long it is. I think you got like 5,000 words that you can type out. I don't really know how many on a comment, but we have comments open so that people can share their experiences with each other and others can comment on it. Maybe you've had an experience that somebody else has had and you can get some kind of fidelity out of that. And Dad actually has a story that he's gonna tell us. And here's where we're gonna start off our paranormal.
Yeah. Well, another story. I have a lot of stories, and I'm just blessed to have them. In 2008, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a chronosarcoma, which was a mass that turned to bone, that turned to cancer. And they were going in to take out my lung. They thought that I had lung cancer. So I go into the operation, and they get ready to deflate my lung, and they found out my lung was fine. I had my bones, my ribs had cancer in them. And so they cut 3 of my ribs out. However, they gave me a spinal tap before I went in for the surgery. And when the surgery was over, I weighed about 65 pounds more than I do today. And I was a big man. So when they gave me the epidural, when they drugged me from the operating table back to the gurney, I got an overdose and I went into cardiac arrest. I went into cardiac arrest twice, is what I was told by the anesthesiologist. And when I went the first, well, I don't know if it was the first or second time, but I remember when I left my body and I went to this place, and it was just nothing but light where I was. I also was able to see my whole life flash in front of me, and it just like everything from when I was a little boy to I was a grown man, to everything about my children, my wife, everybody that was close. I seen it all. And then I went closer again, and the light got brighter and brighter, and I was at peace with everything. And then I seen my wife, Linda, and I seen my family, and I seen the conflicts that they were going through. And this appeared to be like in the future. And I thought, then what happened was, you have to make a choice whether you're coming or going. And I thought it wasn't the right time for me to go. I thought that I was still needed, and I needed to go back to where I came from. And then the light was so intense, and it wasn't like I was talking to a person or another being. It was just like, I'm hearing these things, but the light's so intense, I see nothing but the light and these thoughts. It isn't like and it's not figures, it's thoughts and light. Then once I returned back to my body, I never felt so much excruciating pain in my life. I hurt so much, and they couldn't give me no more anesthesia or no more painkillers after they cut out my ribs, because I just OD'd on it. And then when I went to the light and then I chose to come back, that's what it was a true experience that changed the way I looked at things and how fragile things are. And I realized some of the things I thought were so important before really meant nothing. You know, the things I've accumulated over time, you don't take anything with you. You come with nothing and you leave with nothing. It's just you leave with your soul. So, and the soul is something, but possessions and those kinds of things don't have any place in the next world. So it was strange. It was scary. I'm glad I'm back. My speech changed. Sometimes my words, when I think of a word now, a different word will come out. But I think that's normal when you have a lack of oxygen to your brain for a certain amount of time in that. But I'm glad I'm here, and I'm able to I'm able to become a productive person, and I'm not trapped within my own body now where I'm not able to speak and those kinds of things. Because after I went into cardiac arrest, there could have been a lot of different outcomes. When I returned back to my body, I might not have been able to function. I'm glad that I was able to function in that. They did tell my wife at the hospital that they were waiting for a room. My surgery was supposed to take 4 hours, and 9 hours went by. The only reason why I know I went into cardiac arrest was the anesthesiologist came and saw me and told me what happened. The hospital lied. They said they were waiting for a room, that there wasn't any rooms available, and I'll be right out. That's what they told my family. They didn't say that I went into cardiac arrest twice. They tried to cover it up. But the anesthesiologist told me, and that's helped me later on in my life, because when I do have a surgery now, I'm more aware of what they're using to put me under for that surgery. So I'm not going to be taking no spinal taps anymore and that kind of thing. And usually I have a true anesthesiologist that's taking care of me, not an RN that's overlooking it and that. But when you come close to death, or I actually believe I died and came back, things are never the same. You know, what's important before isn't what's important now. And what I thought was real before wasn't totally real. Some of it was just an illusion of what I thought was important or what I thought it was. And it wasn't anything close to it, especially after coming back. So that's kind of my story about, going into cardiac arrest and dying there on the operation table. And then they had to bring me back with the paddles twice. So that was kind of spooky. So that has to do with my one story for this week about what's happened, something, different than most. I think there's other people out there that have also experienced, those same type of experiences where they've gone and then they've had the choice to come back. We don't get to talk to the people that just leave. And those of us that come back can say what we saw, but we can't. Once you go and you don't come back, you can't really say where you've been.
That was really interesting. I've heard you tell me that story before, but it felt like it was more detailed. And I think that you did have a lot to do still, and that's why you stayed. And I appreciate that because I definitely needed you and still need you, and
right,
couldn't imagine life without you. Speaking of speech, I actually have a hard time with speech as well. I haven't ever really talked about it, but I stutter. I say certain words that I don't want to say. And it hasn't always been like that for me. And I've always kind of been thought maybe I had a stroke whenever I was drinking heavy and didn't understand it because I kind of have one eye that's more lazy than the other. Part of my face looks a little different than the other side. So that's interesting, though, that the speech thing, because I can relate with that. I was last night working on, and today I put out my first writing video on the channel. And as you'll notice, I renamed the channel, I don't know if you noticed yet, to Clinton Dogger Mullins Music and Motorcycles. Obviously, we have the podcast here as well, but I just wanted to, kind of say what it's about as well. And so I just feel like I had an experience somehow in my life, and I don't know where I had it or how I had it, that changed how I talk. And it is frustrating when you're trying to express yourself and it just doesn't come out the way you want it to come out. And whenever I was editing all this video with this voiceover, it was just, I really noticed it. You don't notice it when you're just talking, but when you record yourself and you listen back, you're like, I really talk like that? That's not really how it sounds in my head. And it kind of made me rethink of how I talk. But at the same time, it's how I talk. So it doesn't make me any less of a person or not intelligent. It's just how stuff comes out my mouth.
Yeah, it's changed my expectations of my political ambitions because of I don't think having to do with my speech is caused from, going, when I went into cardiac arrest. So my thought process, it's harder for me to remember things like I used to remember them in the sense of being able to describe them. I can remember things from a long time ago, but then I have to tell you, I met Sam yesterday and I can't remember his name. Those kinds of things. And it's kind of strange how your memory can go like that on that kind of thing. And some of the most vivid memories that you have are from your past.
I kind of wonder if that's a common thing for everyone right now, because of all the media that we are taking in every day. We're taking in more information, I think, than previous generations, like through our phones, emails, social media, the TV, news, or what, all these things, all this media is just hitting you from all angles. Where, 50 years ago, you went to the store, you had the milkman show up with the milk at the front door. No milkman jokes. Come on.
We did have a milkman.
They did. That's what I'm saying.
Monahan Dairy.
I don't think you got the milkman joke.
No.
But the milkman's not my dad. This is my dad. Ha ha. So now you probably got it. But basically what I'm getting at is I feel like the media and all this information that is an overload part of our society in the technology advancements could play a role on people remembering things, because there's so much getting thrown at you. Like, I'm in the middle of doctorate school and I have a hard time remembering easy stuff like names. And I feel like sometimes it's because I'm pushing so hard on my studies to remember that stuff that I don't have room in my brain to remember this or that. But actually, too, how our brain works is I don't need to remember this if I can look it up on my phone. I don't need to remember that if I can have it written down. And there's actually famous musicians and different artists that would use this. So they would, I think it was actually Einstein. It is Einstein. He would write down stuff or put it in a book so that he didn't have to remember how to do it, so he could keep his memory for other things. So I think that not being able to remember somebody's name or something like that is really common for anybody. And with all the stuff coming our way, it's hard to remember everything.
It is hard. But that's why I always preach, tell the truth, and it's easier to remember because you actually did it. So I think those things are a little easier if we tell the truth, and the memories come along with it.
You got that COVID cough over there.
No,
You okay?
I don't have a COVID cough. I know that.
I'm going to have you take one of those PCRs before you come in here.
Yeah. No, I don't have a COVID cough. So I've been out and about. But I think it's important that we realize we are fragile beings, and life is precious, and things could change tomorrow. I have a cousin, which is a Reiki healer, and I've learned a lot from him. And and he's done it for 30 some years, or longer than that, 40 some years, real well known. And I've learned a lot, and he could just look at me and he'd know what I was thinking. I didn't have to speak. And I'd have a problem with my back or something, and I could call him on the phone and he can make my back feel or it didn't hurt anymore. But you also have to ask. He couldn't do it without you giving him the permission to do it.
Speaking of Reiki healers, I have a friend, she's a Reiki healer, and whenever I was having issues at Doggers with the black figure and just different paranormal activity that was just getting really annoying, she came in and she put seagrass or some kind of grass on top of the doorways. She did sage and a bunch of other stuff, and the activity actually went down for a few months. The activity never really stopped there, but her coming in and doing her healing really helped our building. And I was kind of, not really believing. I mean, I believe in it in spiritual realm. I believe in all that, but I didn't have a lot of faith in that helping. And even though I didn't have the faith, which a lot of times you need to have the faith for things to work, it worked. And just a total cool thing to have. So if you're having a haunting in your house, or you're having energies that you need to cleanse, Reiki healers are a great way to go. Or you could also just, when the doorbell rings and there's two guys in a suit with a bike, you could just let them in and see what happens.
Right. Yeah. I know the University of Washington has a class now on Reiki healing.
Really? I didn't know that.
It's part of the medical class. Yeah. My doctor we were talking about that with my doctor, and he's my primary care provider, and he told me at University of Washington had classes on that. So that was pretty good. And we got into discussion about my cousin and his healing and what he's done for people and that kind of stuff. And he understanding how that stuff is possible instead of closing me down. So I thought that was kind of cool.
You know, I think that you would be able to do just fine in politics if that was something you ever wanted to get back into. I think that you're a great speaker. Looking back at the other 4 episodes that we've done, it's really easy to understand how you talk. I don't feel like you would have a problem with it, really.
Right. Well, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. I know my wife, she don't like it at all, but I've done some stuff. I've even ran for U.S. Senate and some other positions that are kind of, it was very, I was able to get out, and I gave over 90 some speeches when I ran for the United States Senate. That was in 1999, 2000.
I remember meeting, was it Ross Perot?
Ross Perot.
Yeah, we met Ross Perot at I think Evergreen or the Capitol.
He was at the Capitol.
Yeah.
You know, and then that was kind of cool. And I've met some pretty, I don't say all people are important, but I met some pretty influential people. And even George Soros even sent me a letter this last year wanting me to get a hold of him in reference to, I told him about my ambitions and stuff, and about either for the Senate or the Congress, but I haven't followed through. That was the last letter was about 4 months ago. And, but I've mailed him back and forth and spoke with family members. He's 84. He's a pretty old guy.
You've had aliens contact you. I think that actually would be really cool to take
George Soros and aliens.
take some of those. I know I just went left field on you.
Yeah.
We are in Washington. So maybe take some of those emails where on Craigslist he did these ads looking for alien contact, and people or aliens hit him up and had little conversations with him. So it'd be interesting to read some of those.
Well, I think next time what I'll do is I'll make some copies of some of the ones I got.
And we'll read some. That'd be really cool.
Some.
I could read them for you if you want.
Yeah, we could read those, and then you can kind of see how people responded and something. Why I was concerned, because I don't want to get a true alien is one thing, but somebody that thinks they're an alien and isn't an alien is something else. So I think I'd be more scared of somebody that thought they were an alien and wasn't truly an alien than an alien that was a real alien that just, they're here.
I can say it in my best alien voice.
Yeah.
That wasn't my best alien voice,
No.
but I promise I have one. I have a really good alien voice. So let's move on a little bit. Did you have any other stories or?
Well, I think that'd be it for the stories.
Okay.
I got more stories and stuff, but I think I'll leave it for that one. That one was kind of a difficult one for me to really talk about because, it took quite a few years to heal and stuff. I'm still, the ribs didn't grow back. And my life has changed a lot since then, but it's all for the best.
Yeah, you actually have a custom plate jacket that Dad wears, because if he was to just fall somewhere, he doesn't have the ribs there, so his heart is pretty much exposed.
Right.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I got scars and it make a woman just thrilled. They say if someone with a lot of scars, they like that. So I got scars all over my body.
Oh man, I got some scars. I just don't like taking off my shirt, but maybe I'll have to get used to taking my shirt off.
No, I'm not taking
ladies.
mine off. I'm not taking mine off and stuff. I would like to talk about some jobs too.
Awesome. So we were talking about it earlier about an opportunity here locally. I believe it was in the Willapa Bay. There's a clam digging license that you can get from directly from the state.
Yeah, it's from Department of Fish and Wildlife, and it's for razor clams. And it happens in April, May, and part of June, as long as the season's there. And for about $157, it was $152 or $157, you can get a commercial clam digging license, and you can dig unlimited clams. It's not 15 clams. It's unlimited clams. And the way you get there's a couple different ways. You can either go to Nakata or Bay Center and go in by boat, or you can go down to Long Beach and go to the very end of Long Beach past Nakata, and you can walk in. What you need is a baby stroller, because usually they put the clams in like a bucket, but they'll use baby strollers to push them in the sand. You'll need a boat if you come in by boat, and it's best to use a clam shovel, not a clam gun. And on a good clam digger can dig a couple 100 pounds in a tide. And if you're learning, you might only get yourself 50 pounds or 80 pounds, but as you learn, the faster you'll become. So in a season, you can make anywhere from $17,000 up to about $28,000 in 2.5 months.
Off like $150 investment.
After $150 investment.
Wow.
That's pretty good. And if you don't live in Washington, I don't believe you have to be a Washington State resident to be able to get a license. If you want to dig razor clams and you live in Washington, that's great. Or if you live in South Dakota and you still want to dig razor clams and come out here, get a hold of the Department of Fish and Wildlife with the state of Washington and ask them about the razor clam dig for Willapa Bay for the commercial license. And there's no credit check. There's no tests you got to take or anything like that. And if you want to sell them wholesale, there's buyers there at every tide that'll buy your clams. But you might decide that, hey, I dug these clams and now I want to be able to sell them retail, and that's a fish buyer's license. So you become a wholesaler. So you could become a digger and a buyer, and you could actually buy other people's. But then you're going to have some bonding required if you become a buyer. But then you could sell it to supermarkets, restaurants, or individuals. Instead of getting a wholesale price of like $2.75 a pound, you're going to get a retail price of like $5.50 to $9 a pound.
Just don't do it. What Dad used to do, he used to get a U-Haul truck and throw a bunch of ice in the back, and then he'd go pick up fish and sell them.
Yeah, well, what I did was I bought hook and line bottom fish, and hook and line was they'd hook and line them, and then they would bleed them. And the same fish that are off the Washington coast look like the same fish that are off the Vietnam coast. The fish look the same, the bottom fish do. So the Asians really like the fish. And the way that you tell a fresh fish is by the eyes and the firmness of the back, and also by bleeding the fish doesn't smell fishy, and it'll stay fresh for like 5 or 6 days longer before you'd have to flash freeze them. So if you want a fresh fish, you want it bled, just like how they do with an animal when they're preparing it for slaughter.
We do that salmon fishing, steelhead fishing. You always bleed a fish.
Right.
That's definitely, if you're a fisherman, that's something that you're going to be doing. And, a little trailer, like pull behind my Prius trailer I'm using right now, that a premium price is probably around $3,000. Probably get a new one for like $4,000, which they used to be a lot cheaper. I think I paid $2,400 for mine. You could throw like those Walmart totes in there, fill the totes with ice, and then if you wanted to get really crafty, put yourself like little valves on the bottom, like glue them on there. We've actually done something similar to that. That way, whenever the ice melts later, you can just tip it towards the end of the trailer, unscrew it, let the water out. Maybe rinse it out with a hose, you're good to go. And you can just haul the fish in a little trailer behind a car like mine.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's one thing, too, is I used to go to the docks and the charter boats. When they didn't have people to be on the charter, I would hire the charter boat to go out and fish for bottom fish, and then I'd buy every fish they had when they came back. And they knew what I was looking for, and I wanted the hook and line bled fish. And then we would sell them at Waji Maya's, Main Fish, Pike Place Market. And then one time I started to sell them at restaurants, and then this would have been back in the mid-'80s. The person from the Department of Health for King County stopped me and said, if you keep selling to the restaurants, you're going to find yourself dead with cement boots in the Sound. Because at the time you had Booth and some of these other fish buyers, it's almost like mafia. In a certain sense, because once you start cutting into the restaurants, that's a retail buyer, and the wholesalers, the big guys that got all the money, Pacific Fish, Booth, and all those other guys, they don't like it. And I'm not going to say Booth was going to kill me, but that guy from the Department of Health sure gave me a warning, and I didn't go back to the restaurants after that, and I stayed at Pike Place Market, Main Fish, Mutual Fish, and Waji Maya's is where I sold most of all my fish when I had it.
I've never heard that before, but somebody was paying him something.
Yeah, but that's not that long ago in the mid-'80s. So, and then I had another business idea, and I interned with the Chehalis tribe my senior year in college. And my thesis was where we would take swimming pools, and then we would raise Donaldson trout in the pool. A Donaldson trout is between a steelhead and a trout. It's a hybrid. They're sterile. But a female will grow to 15 pounds in 1 year. That's pretty big. And what you do is you take a swimming pool. It's best to get the liner under the ground because the ground acts as an insulator. But if it's above ground, that'll work too. And then you take your swimming pool filter and you cross it like this, and then you drill holes in one side of the pipes that go across the top, and then you use that spray bar that sprays water on the top of the pool, which causes a current inside the pool, and then the fish swim against the current when they're swimming, and that reduces their stress. Now, an average family, we figured at that time, would make between $12,000 to $16,000 a year in one swimming pool.
Wow.
So you can also get that. You can get that done through the Department of Fish and Wildlife. You can apply for an application because if you want it for human consumption and you want to be able to sell it, you want to make sure you get all your licenses and stuff. And you can raise fish as long as you got a good water source. The best water source is going to be from a well. Not you can't use like a city because you got chlorine and that kind of stuff. Yeah, sure, you can let the chlorine sit and it evaporates, but it's also better to have it from a well. Also, if you use an open water source, there could be pollution that's coming down from the trees when the warehouser or some company sprays the trees, or the vegetation could kill your fish, some kind of a pollutant or stuff, or if you're pumping out of a river and then pumping back. So the thing about raising fish is a very good idea for you to be able to make money. Just it's some like people say, well, I raise cows. Well, I don't have a lot of room. But one thing about raising fish in a swimming pool, it's all contained. And if you decide you no longer want to raise fish, you can just take the swimming pool down and take it to the next person, and they can raise the fish.
We weren't never really that great at raising cows because Mom would name the cows. I remember Sammy.
Sammy broke his leg, yeah.
Yeah, and then we duct taped some wood and fixed his leg. He was good to go in a month or so. But whenever we lived on the farm, we had 44 acres off Minkler Road. We had some cows, and they all got names, and all of a sudden they were pets. You literally yell their name, and they came to you like a dog. So we didn't eat the cow as far as I know.
No, we didn't eat a cow. I couldn't eat a cow. I felt really bad. And when you raise them when they're little, and then when they get big, they still want to cuddle with you, and they kind of come up to you. So then you got all these cows. I think we had one time 32 cows, but they come up to you and they all want to do it. So you got to be real careful so you don't get hurt because they're big animals. They just want to love. Is what they wanted.
I remember castrating them.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my jobs.
Well, we had the castration thing. We had bands for the little ones.
It was like rubber band situation. Yeah. That's what I did.
That was for like the steers.
Yeah, so it was like this pair of pliers. You put the rubber band on there, and I'll never forget whenever I let go of that thing. Man, that cow was not happy.
And then we also had a burner for their horns. What you do is you get their horns so they wouldn't keep growing out and hook you or something. So
that sounds pretty cruel. All of the above of what I've just talked about just sounds horrible.
Well, ours probably lived longer than most did because we didn't eat them. So we kept them around, but I did take them to market sometimes, and that made me feel kind of bad. So that's the reason why I don't raise cows no more. I guess that's why I'm doing dogs. But that's a whole nother story. We're not going to get into the dogs.
Yeah, I feel like we need to have an intervention for you, Dad, and we need to figure out a way to like downgrade your dog situation.
Right, but it's hard to do it. But we won't say how many dogs old Pops has got, but I can say I love him.
I think I hit a nerve on that one.
Yeah. So we're not going to get into that. We can get into another job, though. Another job would be, I was thinking being a notary. One thing about being a notary, you can do it anywhere in the country. You can be a notary for a hospital when they need a medical papers signed or something. Mortgage companies, most of the mortgage companies are actually, they call you up on the phone. They're not from the local banks. So they got a lot of these, mortgage companies that are just all over the country. And someone's got to sign up their paperwork, and they'll give you $150 just to go have them do signatures. You go to the hospital, you get from $50 to $70 when you go to the hospital. And they have a number and they can call you. So being a notary, they have classes you can take online, or if you're a good reader and you can actually consume that information and know what you're reading, you can do it with no formal education if you want. And it's very little money. There is no bonding required. So for $100, you become a notary. And then you can apply for a license. You're going to need a license if you're going to be working with a hospital or with a mortgage company, besides just the notary itself. But that's a good one, too, to be able to generate some income. And then you're out and going, like, especially when you're doing I think the mortgage company or the hospitals are pretty good places to go, for that kind of thing. And adult family care facilities, nursing homes, and those kinds of things where they need notaries. So that's a good one too. So I think that's a pretty good. And then I'll finish with one more. and it has to do with pallets. Pallets all over this country are just laying out there with these big warehouses, grocery stores, Walmarts, Lowe's, whoever it might be. They can't get rid of them. So you're always seeing ads for free pallets. So if you got yourself, and I've seen also on Craigslist, you can get a free table saw, you can get a radial arm saw free, you can get a chop saw, and you need a planer. And if you get those items and you keep watching, you can get those items for free. If you went out there and you picked up pallets, and then what you do is you de-nail them, cut the big knots out that aren't there, and then what you do is you'd put grooves on all four sides, making them into almost like flooring. But what you do is you'd sell them for wood coverings for walls. And you get, anywhere from 18 cents to 32 cents a foot for them, a square foot. And that would be a good way to make money too, because there's so many pallets out there that are free. So you're getting the material for free. So now you got a way, you're going to need a truck and a trailer and a bander. And then you can start selling your materials. I think that's a good way to make money, especially if you're the kind of person that wants to be busy. You're always busy working, doing something. And that might be a good job that would fit you. And if you don't have money for the equipment, then start looking at Craigslist where you're at locally under free. And every week I see free table saws and radial arm saws in the Seattle area. So I know you could find one too, and it wouldn't be much to get in that kind of a business. And you can make thousands of dollars a month doing that.
I think what's important, besides all that is a great idea, is your concept of free. Lately, I have been seeing more free stuff. Like, I just hit up a guy that was giving away a free Harley gas tank that probably sells on eBay for anywhere from $150 to $350. And it had other Harley parts for free. I wasn't the first guy, but what I'm getting at is if you just spent all day long looking, maybe you did it maybe you made one day a week on Wednesdays or whatever day, I'm going to go pick stuff up. And then the other days, I'm going to spend 8 hours a day surfing and looking for these free items. Well, the key thing is because they're all over, is being the first one to get it. So one of the things I've noticed is on Facebook Marketplace, Dad he uses Craigslist, which I've been telling him, that's great. But lately, people have been posting on Marketplace. That's really one of the spots where a lot of people are posting stuff. It's like the new Craigslist. There's other apps, but Marketplace is where it's at. So the other cool thing about Marketplace is Facebook remembers all your data. It remembers what you search and all of that lovely stuff that we all hate. But the cool thing about it is, let's say that you're into the Yamaha Striker. And maybe you bought one a week before, you took a picture of one, or you Googled it on your phone, and then you're into Gibson guitars, you Googled that on your phone, whatever. Well, what I'll notice is in Marketplace, if I don't actually go to categories and I just keep it open, it'll show me stuff that I'm interested in through however they do that online. So they actually tailor what you're going to see to your interest. So you'll see something like, you might be the first one to see it if you constantly go there every 5-10 minutes and you flip through the new items, because it's going to tailor to what your interests are. But I think the biggest thing is going there and looking every 5 minutes to 10 minutes to see what is new and what it just posted, because you only have about 5 to 20 minutes before somebody else is getting it before you.
Right.
And I've noticed usually around the 59, 30 minute mark, I'm not the first one in line. Well, that's okay if you're a little bit late to the game. The next thing you can do, tell a story. For me, if I have something online for sale, I try to go through who talks to me first gets the product. That is fair. But if somebody hits me up and they tell me a good story, that bumps them up at least a couple spots. I'm just saying, like, a good story can go a long way. This guy wants to buy his first motorcycle. He's never had one before. This is his dream, his dad, and whatever the story is, as long as it's honest and I'm sold, I might want to actually sell this or give this thing to this guy for a better deal than I would have normally because of the story. So don't be afraid to, instead of just, is this available? Don't click, is this available? That's another thing too, especially if you do this, Dad, because I know you haven't yet. Because if you actually sell something on Marketplace and it's a good deal and a lot of people are going to see it and a lot of people are going to make offers, you're going to have like 50 to 100 people put, is this available? So the first thing the seller is going to do is ignore it. You'll actually notice on a lot of posts, they'll say, if this says, is this available? Or if you're asking a lot of questions, they're just not going to message you back. It's good to ask questions and everything, but if you really want it, just make an offer or go buy it, because there's 8 other guys or 100 other guys trying to buy the same thing. And the seller doesn't want to have to sit there and explain himself when he's already explained the product in the description and there's already pictures. So really try to make it as easy as possible on the seller. Also, use a profile that isn't going to look sketchy. Like if your profile is kind of sketchy looking, you know what that means.
Right.
I'm not going to really want to go sell it to you, where if it's like a guy with his family and they have like a picture with his family at the lake and they're camping, I feel more comfortable meeting that guy at the Safeway parking lot than I do the other guy. You know, I feel comfortable on both aspects, but I'm probably going to lean to one side. And I think that a lot of sellers do that. So be presentable on your Facebook, on your social media. I mean, I think that I lose out on a lot of deals because of my profile pictures at times. And, you know, I'm okay with that. I'm not really out there trying to buy and sell stuff. That's not really where I'm at in life. But if that was what I was doing full time, I would probably have a picture of me with my mom or me with my dad or something really like family oriented, something really inviting, something that doesn't say, oh, that guy's a biker. Oh, that guy's a rocker. He's a partier, or whatever kind of thing goes along with what I am. But I'm not a partier. I'm not that person, but it might look like I'm that kind of person just because people have those kind of expectations of people. And to have an understanding of what people's expectations are, I think is really important in the whole buying and selling. And there's a lot of money to be made in free items. My brother, actually, he used to go and he lives in Lacey, and on Sundays, a lot of garage sales, they'd be like, come pick it up for free. And they would post that. You'll see that all the time in the summer. So he'd go pick it up for free and put it in his garage. And he'd do this for like a month. Then you'd have a garage sale like every other month and just bring it in, rake in the money off all these free items that he paid no money for. And now when he's done and he doesn't want any of the items, he just takes it to Goodwill. So it took him a little bit of time to go pick up the items. And then at the end, he's got to take the items to Goodwill. Really, that's a super cool deal.
Right. There's a couple things I do. One thing I'll do is I'll thank the individual to have even offered the item for free. Whether I get the item or not, I'm sure whoever gets the item will be thankful that you gave it to them. And you're blessed that you did that. The second thing is, if it's a real good item and I really want it, and I'm setting stuff up and I'm going to travel to go pick up several items, I'll offer them a little bit of money. And a lot of times they'll hold it for you if they're going to get paid a little bit where they were offering it for free. So, and that kind of breaks loose them being able to work with you. But people like to be, they like to be thanked for even being recognized that they're giving it away. The third thing that you can do when you're responding to an ad, because so many people on their cell phones, if you get someone text you, I don't know that one. I just garbage. Send them a 22-second video of you asking about that item, and it'll show up on their phone. If they see you doing that, and you're the only one sending them a video, a short one, 22 seconds at the most, you'll have a better response. Your response rates will go up. So those are the three things that I think if you added that, you will be successful. And you might decide, hey, I want to sell couches. There's lots of nice couches. Or I want to sell washers, dryers, refrigerators, stoves. Those are all free items that you can go pick up.
Speaking of couches, the gentleman that I bought my trailer from, he lived in a really nice neighborhood, I think in Everett, beautiful house, like a brand new house. And he told me he was killing it. And that's what he did. He rented a spot downtown that he could sell his items out of, but he was literally picking up free couches or whatever he could get them for. And then he was selling them online and then also through his storefront and just making a killing doing it.
Right.
And then he also would buy trailers and use the trailer, and then until he got another one for a better deal, and then sell the trailer. So he literally was able to support his family, have a nice home in a bigger city where it's expensive, off of getting things on Craigslist for free or a good deal. And he had employees even.
Right. So I think that's a real good way to start, because you're getting the things that you're selling for free, or just your labor and gas. And you can actually organize it so you're just not picking up one item. You're picking up numerous items in certain areas. You try to get them located to certain areas, so you're not backtracking and stuff, because your time's money, and also gas and mileage is money too.
Also, if you're getting something, you're actually paying for it. So let's say you're going to buy a motorcycle. Try to understand what you're getting yourself into. So let's say you're going to buy this bike, and it's right now, Blue Book doesn't matter. I mean, unless it's a newer bike, stuff's selling for more than the Blue Book value, and that's just where the market is at. But understand where the market is at, and then also understand when you walk in, is it going to need new tires? Is this car going to need new tires? Does it need a carb cleaned, or is it fuel injected? And all these little things will help when you're making the deal. For instance, they want $5,500, but it's probably worth $5,000, and it needs new tires, needs a carb cleaned. And if you don't know how to do that stuff, you're looking at maybe you're looking at $1,500 worth of work. Discuss that with them. Be upfront. Be like, hey, I really want to buy this from you, but it's going to cost me this amount of money to buy this item and to be able to even use it. And in your post, it says that it's total functional, that it's working. And a lot of time you'll see somebody post something for sale with an old picture. Maybe it was right when they bought the bike, and you get there and it doesn't look the same. And they're usually, if you say something about it, they're totally understanding. If you don't say anything about it, they're not going to make you a deal. But if you ask them to make you a deal, the worst they can say is no. And you could walk. It's better to walk on a deal than to get a deal and then be stuck with it and lose money. I've learned that myself many a times. And, you drove 3 hours or whatever it is, and my stubborn self just wants to make the deal. I like making a deal, and it's fun. But I think it's important to understand fully what you're getting yourself into. But if you're just getting something for yourself that you're not looking to make money on, that's okay to spend a little bit more if you really want it, or if it needs this or needs that. That's totally cool. And I think that item is worth whatever you're going to pay for it. It's not really valued at a certain value, but when you're buying something to sell it, you really got to pay attention to what they're selling for. And that's not always what the Blue Book is. So let's say a Sportster is Blue Booked at $2,500. Well, everything in the market right now is selling for $45,000. Well, it's probably worth $4,000, even though you can go to the person and be like, well, Blue Book, it says this. That's not where the value is in the market. So it's really in a weird spot where we're at post-COVID on how to buy stuff. And especially if you're looking to sell, it's really hard to find a deal that's going to be worth buying to sell. Because even if you were to get something like a Sportster, let's say you paid $2,000 for a Sportster, you're going to need new tires. And you don't want to sell a bike to somebody that's not ready to go. And if somebody gets hurt on that, that's kind of on your conscience. So when you receive something like that, you're going to need to fix everything that you can, unless you're selling it as is. But in a situation like that, you really should just fix it all and have it in a running condition. So it's just important to know what you're dealing with, knowing what you're working with. And one of the best pieces of advice that I could give you personally, and I watch Bikers and Beards, or Beards and Bikers. He actually is over I believe the East Coast, and he did a lot of buying and selling of bikes. And his biggest thing is he takes a checklist of things and he goes over everything. The VIN number. That's one of the biggest things. Check the VIN number, check it with the title. Also, you can ask them to send a picture of the title if it's a car or if it's a bike. If they're not willing to send you a picture of the title, it's probably not worth your time to go look. Because a lot of the time you'll get there, this has happened to me many times, oh, I don't have the title, or it's not even in their name. I picked up a bike a while back, and luckily my friend had sold this gentleman the bike. But whenever I got the title from him, he never transferred the title. And then wrote me a bill for sale, and like literally I can't transfer it. So luckily I'm friends with the individual that originally sold it, so I'll be able to take care of it. But there's just all kinds. I have friends that buy stuff and they'll promise a title and then they go pick it up and there's no title. And then they're, oh, it's in my safe or it's in here or there. It's just, you're not going to receive it. At that point, if they say they have it and they don't, you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah, you should always get a title before you walk away. One good place I go to on Craigslist and that was I look under wanted. And the reason why I look under wanted is I see what people are wanting to buy. And then if I'm out looking for stuff and then all of a sudden I've seen something that somebody wanted, then I can put the two together. Now I got a buyer and I got a seller, somebody in mind, and then I got somebody that I can sell that item to. And that's a good place for a real quick, someone that wants to buy now. And you look at the most recent ads because when somebody wants to buy something, they want to buy it now, not an hour from now, not 3 days from now. They want to buy it the time that they put the ad in. So the newer the ad, the better the newer the ad when it was posted, the better the prospect, because time hasn't passed. So and you're not wasting time that way. So that's a good plus to be able to, when you're thinking about who can I sell something to, or I have items that I want to sell, and then you can look for somebody looking for those items, not only for items to buy, but also for items that you already have to sell.
That's a great point. Well, we're almost up to an hour, so I think that episode 5 is going to come to a close here in a second. I just want to say one little final thing about doing the online buy and selling thing. If somebody hits you up and they're looking to buy something that you have, and a red flags would be, well, I don't think I can afford this, or my significant other is going to get mad. For me personally, I would just rather not sell it to them. I try to stay away from getting involved in anything like that. And, you're still going to have it tomorrow. So it's still money in the bank. And I feel like walking from a sale and not selling to somebody is better than selling to somebody that doesn't need what you're selling and might come back on negative review on your profile, or just, that's kind of, my last bit of advice for me. And I've been there a lot where I'm just like, I'd rather keep it than get rid of it at that point. But I appreciate everybody tuning in to our 5th episode. My name's Clinton.
And I'm Ron.
And this was the Ron and Son podcast.
Peace out.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye.
We'll be back here next week every Sunday.